Well, hello, I'm here with Doug to talk about vaccines and other things, and it is Tuesday, September 16, 2025. And so I have been worried about getting a COVID shot because I'm old and sick, and Kaiser announced that they would be available starting yesterday. And I went there, and they are not kidding. It was absolutely DDoSed. You couldn't even get in the parking lot. You couldn't even get close to the parking lot. There was a line of cars. And I looked, and even if you somehow got in the parking lot, there was just a line of people waiting in line all the way around the building. So it looked like at least an hour in line or more waiting. So I went away, and I'll try again another day. But evidently, a lot of other people around here were doing what I was doing, watching very carefully to see when it'll be available, which I highly recommend because um, RFK Jr. is meeting with his new panel of vaccine skeptics and quacks on Thursday, and he is expected to change the vaccination rules again. And one thing he may do, although I only saw one report about this, is raise the age to 75. And here I think it's interesting. I think it was my CISSP training that helped me understand this. Walgreens has had the vaccine for about a week. And you can get it, and apparently you can get it for free in California. But when I read their website, it seems like you can only get it for free in California, or probably at all in California, if you get last year's vaccine, which was approved for everybody. But if you want this year's vaccine, you can only get it if you're above 65 or below 6 months or have certain diseases. And but Kaiser said they'll give it to anybody that wants it, as long as you're over 6 months. And this, I think, feeds with their business incentives. The point is the CDC, under the corrupt Trump administration ruled by the quack RFK Jr., has ruled that people between 6 months and 65 should not take the vaccine unless they have a major medical problem. And if you think about it, Walgreens is not responsible for how sick you get. If you go there and they won't give you the vaccine and you go off and die of COVID, that's not their problem. They don't have to pay for any of that. So the logical thing, also, they're a national chain. They're all over the place. So they can't afford to irritate Trump and have him take revenge on them, or RFK Jr. And so financially, it makes sense they should obey the federal regulation, the CDC recommendation, which is what they're doing. But Kaiser, if I was to get rejected for the vaccine for being under 65, and then I got sick, and then they stick me on a ventilator for a month, Kaiser has to pay for all that. So they care whether you actually get sick. So they want to give the vaccine to everybody in violation of the CDC order. So it is interesting. And I'm not so angry about either of these decisions now. I understand why they do it and why they have to do it. But it does place Kaiser in the position, like a lot of uh, blue states, of doing something that will anger the federal government, and they will probably take revenge um, in various ways. But I can see how Kaiser probably has a reasonable financial incentive to do this. So anyway, um, you can get it at Kaiser, and you can get it if you're over 65 at Walgreens. But if you are an average citizen of California between 6 months and 65, and you're not a member of Kaiser, I think you're screwed. Now, I heard of another blue state, might be Oregon, where might be, I can't remember which state it was, but they declared at the state level that everybody should be allowed to take the vaccine, and they said that counts as the equivalent of a doctor's prescription, and therefore everybody can get it. And I don't think California has done that, but maybe they should. Anyway, it is,
Wait, run that by me again?
the governor of the state declared that everybody should be allowed to take the vaccine. And he said that should give the same weight as a doctor's prescription and therefore enable you to violate the CDC orders.
I
And he
see.
thought that that would also mean that insurance providers should pay for it, which is, of course, the big issue.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, insurance providers would also be on the hook if you got sick. So just like Kaiser, it would be more logical for insurance providers to pay for the vaccine. But um, they are national, and a lot of them are ruled by boards of directors and CEOs that are probably Trump supporters in red states, and probably are very reluctant to put up with the political consequences of daring to suggest that vaccines prevent disease, which is apparently forbidden for Republicans now. So as we descend into fascism, and we have a totalitarian dictator. I think I'm understanding the psychology of it better than I ever have. I mean, if you think about, Trump has never understood that there's anything called objective reality. He thinks that his word is law, and it always has been law, and he can just declare something and that makes it true because he thinks he's a god. And Science and math are things where you can't just, where there's a truth outside yourself, and they see that as rebellion in their authority. That's why I see so many of them do this. The African dictators deny that AIDS exists. The very idea that there should be some vaccine or some disease that obeys rules that do not come from them is challenging their supremacy as a god. So I think that's why they always rebel against science, and they greatly prefer religion.
Well, there are three truths, right? There's the objective truth,
Yeah.
which you can prove or you can share with others,
Yeah.
meaning through scientific research or scientific experiments.
Repeatable things. Yeah.
Yeah, repeatable things. So if I don't believe you, if you say an apple drops to the floor and I say no, it doesn't, you can demonstrate that with an experiment, and I could repeat that and say, well, yes, it does.
That's right. And if you did that, if you demonstrated that to a character like Trump, he would say, "You're cheating, you're tricking me, you're part of a conspiracy because my word is what matters and your evidence is evil. And I need to like shut you up or kill you to get you to stop insulting me with this defiance of my rights."
Right. And that would be a group truth that you get everybody collectively together to believe something,
Right. Like,
whether it's true or not,
right. That's religion. Yeah.
which would be religion or to a degree politics.
Tradition. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other is your personal belief, which would be your personal belief in God or religion or whatever you think is the
Yeah.
truth.
And
And
I think that third one is very weak and very fragile. I think most people actually don't have any of that third one. They just conform to society and are somewhat compelled by real reality, but they don't actually have any convictions. And I think that's kind of what the Stanford prison experiment showed, is that people don't really seem to have any personal convictions. They'll just do whatever fits in their culture.
yeah, and you know, I will argue that your personal truth, what you believe,
Yeah.
and Neil deGrasse Tyson says this all the time, um, the worst evidence that can be provided at a trial is somebody's eyewitness testimony.
I've heard this, and I've certainly seen enough demonstrations of it.
Yeah, and you know, I have to, I don't agree with him fully, but I have to agree with him. And that is because do you remember maybe 10 years ago, there was the woman with the dress
Well,
that
remember,
people said,
this picture of a dress was an optical illusion. It looked like blue and maybe
no, it
gray or
wasn't,
something.
it was not an optical illusion. It was some people saw it as
Right,
gold and white,
right,
and others, I think, saw it as black
right.
and blue.
Well, this is a well-known visual effect. I used to study this. It's how colors are perceived. But yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's your perception. That's what your
Right.
personal truth is your
Yeah,
perception of the world.
yeah,
And there was a linguistic that published Yarny and Yana or something like that, which was in language that if you're younger, you heard a word as one word,
right.
but if you're older, you age and you hear it as a completely different word.
That's right.
So again, you know, that's your personal truth. And what I'm trying to do, I guess, is demonstrate that I agree with Neil deGrasse Tyson that people can be the worst witnesses.
They can be.
Yeah, they can be.
They can be. Yep. Anyway, so
Anyway,
so
yeah.
I recommend getting a vaccine if you can, and I look for nothing good coming on Friday as a result of the latest meeting of quacks in Washington to push more superstitious medical lies on us.
Yeah, so it's interesting, Sam, that you bring this up about Kaiser. This is like when the polio vaccine came out. You had lines, you had mothers bringing their
Oh
kids,
yeah. Oh yeah.
waiting hours.
Yeah, they're doing that right now. And by the
Yeah,
way, another thing I saw is that the pertussis, whooping cough, is now up to 6 times what it was last year, which is what we
really.
expected. Yeah, because the Republicans won't take the vaccine, and I expect polio to start rising for the same reason. They refuse.
Yeah.
Republicans refuse to take vaccines. They say 1 in 6 um, Americans no longer take vaccines, and when they ask them, they're mostly because they're religious, and that Republicans prey on them. They're and like I say, they mainly focus on that religious truth. They feel like what science is not important and it's not real. What's real is God and his chosen messenger, Trump, who was spared getting murdered in Pennsylvania and proves that he's anointed by God like King David and we should just obey him. I understand this. I was raised in that tradition. And but I know they think they're doing the right thing, but they're wrong. But I have California values where I value like objective truth and scientific reality, and they explicitly reject that in favor of spiritual truth. I saw an interview with someone who refused to vaccinate their kids, and one of them died of measles, and they still didn't vaccinate the others. And he interviewed them and said, "No, we did the right thing. That kid will go to heaven now. Surrendering to the devil would not have been good."
Right, right.
So they're not they don't understand how wrong they are. And I guess to be fair, they don't think they're wrong. In their belief system, their moves are logical. I just have a different belief system.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
um, so the in response to the killing of Charlie Kirk, the fascists have become far more fascist. They're talking about defunding all organizations that opposed them, declaring them terrorists, getting people fired and blacklisted for daring to say anything disrespectful about Charlie Kirk, and so on. And their plan for white Christian America is unfolding before our eyes. There's an interesting article here. Let me see where I got it from on Salon. And they point out that they're they're ignoring what Republicans used to stand for. Convictions focus on small government and personal liberty. They say that was a mistake. That amounted to nothing more than unilateral disarmament against the teeming hordes of the left. Seizing and wielding federal political power, not restraining it, is the mission. And so the country belongs to the descendant of white Europeans who took the land from violent Native Americans fair and square because they were just plain superior. And that's certainly the current Nazi regime running America. They're white supremacists, and they feel like all women are inferior to men, and all other races are inferior to white people, and they should be thrown out of the country. And if they stay here, they have to accept a second or third class status. And anyway, it's
So,
moving right along.
Sam,
Yeah,
that's better known as, if you're a historian,
yeah,
manifest destiny.
absolutely. It is like when the European colonists came here to slaughter all the natives and save them by bringing them the glory of Christianity and smallpox. Um, and Elon Musk is totally on board with this. He's a Nazi. He supports the Alliance for Deutschland, and he just appeared at a far right rally in London of their far right movement. Uh,
Wait, in where?
in London. In London,
Oh,
they
in
had
London.
100,000
London.
people out there to protest
Wow.
Unite the Kingdom, organized by Tommy Robinson. Oh, the white supremacy is big in Britain. They've had the big parties there, just like here. He rallied against the woke mind virus. Musk did and told them violence is coming, and you either fight back or you die. Whether you choose violence or not, violence is coming to you. So he and the people on the left are the party of murder. So Elon Musk, more than any other right-wing leader, is absolutely demanding violence. Although a lot of them are now, after Charlie Kirk got killed. And by the way, we still don't know the motivation of the guy that killed Charlie Kirk, but there's a pretty good chance that he was, in fact, a Groiper. And he was to the right of Kirk, not left wing at all. The Groipers are the extreme Nazis, led strangely enough by a Hispanic guy. Um, and they feel like they hate Charlie Kirk because they thought he wasn't fascist enough. He wasn't right wing enough.
But Sam,
Yeah,
again, I'm
yeah,
piecing this together,
yeah.
but wasn't he, didn't he have a trans
Oh, well, now they say he had a
partner?
trans. Well, there are reports that he lived at home with his parents, and then there are reports that he lived with a roommate who was transitioning. So nothing is clear yet. Everything is contradictory.
So we're getting that. That was kind of my fear that
Yeah,
maybe he's not, that this
yeah.
is just propaganda.
And there are some reports that he was indoctrinated as a leftist, and there are reports that he was a Groiper, which is the far right, farther right than Trump, farther right than this guy Charlie Kirk that got killed. Just straight up literal Nazis, proud of being Nazis, and led by Fuentes, I think is the guy, a Hispanic guy who seems
Hmm.
blissfully unaware of the fact that his own party would reject him. Anyway,
Yeah, and what's interesting is I read someplace, again, this is hearsay,
mhm.
That he was raised Mormon or
Oh
became
yeah.
part of the Mormon
Oh
church.
yeah. These families, Republicans and Mormons, like, most people in Utah. Yeah.
But I thought his family was Christian, meaning not Mormon.
Well, Mormons consider themselves Christian.
Yeah, okay,
They
okay.
regard themselves as part of the Christian church. I think other Christians might not like that, but they regard themselves
Right.
as Christians. Anyway,
Yeah, they do, but I thought there was a distinction that was made that he's Mormon Christian where
oh,
his parents are not.
well, that I don't know. There may be divisions in the Mormon church for all I know. I don't,
No, no, not within the church. I mean, where he was in
yeah.
southern Utah is called Dixie Mormon or
Oh,
Mormon Dixie, which is the southern part of Utah, right?
yeah, I don't know that.
And 75% of the people there are Mormon. And I was told, or I read initially, that his family was Christian, non Mormon,
Oh,
and that he accepted the Mormon faith as a young boy.
uh, well,
So,
I think uh, the most penetrating, incisive comment comes surprisingly from Bill Maher. Bill Maher loudly criticized other people on a talk show, and he said, "We don't know shit. All we hear is
right.
contradictory nonsense.
Yeah.
Whenever this stuff happens, you have to wait a few weeks before any facts come out. Until then, it's
Yeah.
all just crazy rumors and." Like those eyewitnesses that you were saying we shouldn't trust, will say, "Hey, I know that guy and I know what he's thinking." And it turns out they don't even know what they're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, Mastodon now is going to have retweets, um, and they're trying to prevent them from leading to flame wars. So, users will receive a notification when your post is quote shared, and you will then be able to remove the original post from the other user's posts. So, I'm going to see how that works. But this means if you want to criticize someone, they'll just remove that. So clearly taking a screenshot is what you should do. So anyway, we'll see what happens. There's been a widely sought feature. Some people have said we need this on Mastodon. Other people have said if you have that, it'll turn into Twitter. It'll be a hate machine. I guess we're going to see.
Yeah.
And so Apple is doing something, I think, just what Gavin Newsom tried a few months ago. They're trying to hit the middle, which is incredibly stupid. They're trying to, see, they have an AI. Apple apparently has an AI, and their AI does not please Republicans and right wingers because, of course, it tells you things like the truth, like vaccines or prevent disease. So they're trying to retrain the AI to have more sensitive topics, and they're marking DEI policies, vaccines, and elections as sensitive topics where you should probably like be very careful what you say, maybe refuse to say anything, and artificial intelligence itself. And I think, they just need to admit that every AI should have a switch at the top that says, do you live on Earth 1 or Earth 2? Do you want the democratic truth or do you want the mega fantasy land? And then give the right answers. I don't think there's any one AI that could possibly give answers that would be palatable to both groups because we disagree on everything now. So this is the mistake everyone makes in a time of division. They try to sit in the middle, and all you do by sitting in the middle is make everybody hate you. You got to pick one side
Yeah.
or the other. Make two
Yeah.
products. Like remember when Google moved to China, they made a special version of Google to put in China that wouldn't report things that the government didn't like. And that's what you have to do in America now. We have a government that
Right.
demands a certain bunch of lies and stuff, and then you make them happy. Tell them that Trump won in 2020 and vaccines are poisons and all the stuff they want to hear. Aliens are taking over and lizard people are there and Hillary Clinton is selling child sex slaves and make the MAGA people happy with the MAGA version of their AI.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
also there's an article, I think the last one I have in this politics section, um, where Axios has an article saying Americans don't think college is worth it. The faith in college has gone greatly down in every group, but they say it totally is worth it. A college degree will double your income later in life. But the number of people that believe that, the Democrats used to have like over 80% thought college was really important. Now it's down to 42%. Republicans used to have 70% that's gone down to 20%.
Wow.
Well, and that's because the other things I've seen when Trump came in, they said the number one determinant of whether you support Trump is college education. College educated people usually don't support him. People without a college education do support him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as they would have said in my hometown, college pollutes your mind with worldly thoughts and takes you away from God. You could say that.
That is true.
That's what it is from their point of view. Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
um, so
Well, Sam, that's another truth, isn't it?
well, I mean, it's just a matter of perspective. That's why, I can see both sides in a lot of this. I mean, if you're really, I was really religious. I had a lot of religious faith when I was younger, and I didn't follow Trump, but maybe I would have been. But anyway, he wasn't around then. But but I would have made decisions like this where obeying the will of God is more important than adhering to what we believe to be scientific truth.
Yeah.
I remember my father refused to pray about his experiments because he felt like God would influence the outcome. And then he got stock market tips from Jesus. My father had some strange interpretations of this situation. Whereas I would say, the last guy you want stock market tips from is Jesus. He said, give away all your money to the poor, wander around penniless. He's not the guy that knows how to win in the stock market.
Yeah. And, Sam, you just brought up a really good
Yeah.
point. If you're going in for say, a heart or brain operation,
Yeah.
do you want your surgeon to pray over you? Because you're right. Like what your father was saying, you
Well,
don't want God to influence the outcome.
if you're doing a scientific experiment, well, see, that's why you have fundamental. If you're doing a scientific experiment, you want to find the actual objective truth. But if you're going in for personal surgery for yourself, you want a miracle on your side. Then I remember people would pray for their sports teams, and I would be very troubled trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And, eventually I read Plato. And, Socrates discussed this whole thing of praying to God for things, and he destroyed it beautifully. I mean, the idea that an omnipotent God that knows everything and is all powerful needs your opinion to decide what to do is contradictory in the extreme. I mean, and
That's a
and
good point.
yeah, and that's why I think the Buddhists have it right. What you do is meditate and chant, and what you're trying to do is train yourself. You do like loving kindness meditation to make yourself more kind and considerate to others. It's a psychological procedure to affect your own behavior. It's not talking God into doing something.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
What?
makes
Yeah.
sense, like you want to quit drinking, you want to be nicer, you want to get over your flaws, then you do some kind of meditation or chanting or prayer. That can make some sense. But expecting to change who wins a football game by praying for it so you can bet on it is just misunderstanding everything. But what it is, I think, is reflecting the experience of a child. A young child, your parents are God, they control everything. And if you beg them to do something, you can sometimes persuade them to do what you want. And
Yeah.
that's what you're thinking of, I think, when you have that kind of prayer.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, um,
Interesting.
so I got a couple AI ones that were interesting.
Oh, wait. Let me,
Yeah,
since you're in
go ahead.
here, I
Yeah,
just listened to
yeah.
The Commonwealth Club
Oh, yeah.
or Commonwealth Club World Affairs, which has been around for over 100 years in San Francisco. And they bring in speakers of all kinds of different topics:
Yeah.
medicine, politics, environment. And I just listened to a talk, and I'm not sure what date this was, but it was given by Dr. Michael Baker, who's a medical doctor, and he's Rear Admiral in the US Navy. He's now retired, and he's been doing a lot of research on the 10th Amendment, the Insurrection Act of 1807, and the Posse Comitas Act of 1878. And he talks about when the military has been used in the past domestically to safeguard civil rights.
Right.
And it's kind of interesting. Something that I didn't know is I'll just bring up kind of the highlights of some of his talk. And a lot of it has to do with Trump, but also military history of what the National Guard is about, when they're able to be deployed, and some of the issues that came up. But some couple highlights that I thought were interesting is he brought up the Japanese internment in California or on the West Coast
Right.
during World War II.
Yeah.
And also the Italians were interned too for a while.
Mm.
But interestingly, in Hawaii, where we had the naval bases, the Japanese were not interned, and we needed them to work in the shipyards.
Yeah,
Interesting contradiction there. And then, have you heard of the most decorated Marine in the U.S. Marine history?
I don't know.
Smedley Butler was his name.
Oh, I think I heard the name, but I forget what he did.
Yeah, so Smedley Butler enlisted in the Marines underage at 16. He's he's at least acclaimed to Dr. Baker, the most decorated Marine in the U.S. history. And he fought in a number of wars that people, most people don't know. Most Americans wouldn't know. Like I guess there was an American Philippine War. Does that sound familiar?
Not to me, but I'm no expert in military history.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, he said he fought in a lot of wars, and then at the end, when he retired, he wrote a book, 50-page book, give or take, about his military experience, and that he realized that a lot of this was all about money and capitalists. And some of the wars in Central America, I think it was Nicaragua, over bananas and the United Fruit Company, that the US went in there and we fought, just like in the Middle East, for oil.
Yeah,
We went in there for business reasons, financial reasons.
yeah,
But what I didn't know is that in 1933, the about 500 industrialists in the U.S. decided that they wanted to overthrow Roosevelt, and they came to Smedley to become kind of the leader and essentially overthrow Roosevelt and the government. And Smedley went to the Congress and testified about what was going on. Have you ever heard of that story?
I think I heard it on Rachel Maddow's Ultra or something like that because she went through
Okay.
the 30s and 40s and all the fascist groups that tried to move America to be on the Nazi side.
Yeah. So kind of interesting what was going on. I'd never heard of that.
Yeah, yeah,
And then he also brought up what happened at Kent State when the National Guard was sent there and they shot and killed 4 people.
yeah. They did fire on the protesters.
And there was no order to shoot. They
Oh,
just arbitrarily started shooting.
well, you send a bunch of guys with guns out there and in a chaotic situation, and sooner or later that's going to happen.
Yeah. And then just to kind of bring it up, there's a lot of information that he shares, but just to bring it up, that people, and you probably know this, Sam, but others might not, that when Trump was in office the first time, a lot of a lot of people in the Pentagon, high-ranking military officials, were not agreeing with him.
Right,
When he came back into power the second time, he's fired all of them.
right. He tried to do it at
Right.
the end of his first term too, purge the military of detractors. And
Yeah.
and yet, I think he failed because of his persistent bad relations with the military, like the military he deployed in Los Angeles. The National Guard he put down there made it very clear that they were there under duress and they did not respect him. They, because he deployed them incredibly badly. He deployed them with no mission into a room with no beds and no food. They had to sleep on the floor of some gymnasium, and they just crapped on the floor, which is, a sign of how much they hate him. Just like when they marched in his parade, they marched out of sync. These are things military people would never do. They'd all learn in the first week to never do this, and they do it as a protest.
Yeah.
And when he doesn't even notice or do anything about it, then they have even less respect for him because he doesn't know a damn thing about the military. He doesn't know how to treat them, and they all have contempt for him. And that's why I think if he ordered the National Guard to fire into a crowd of protesters, most of them would simply not obey him.
Well, that might be, but then there's the Venezuelan boat that was captured recently. I
Well,
don't know
that's
much
true.
about it.
No, but
Yeah.
I've heard plenty about, I mean, the main point is we sent people down, we just blew away and murdered those people when we could have easily captured them. And a hot-running Trump administration official said we could have interdicted them, but we just
Yeah.
chose to kill them anyway. And so we didn't, you could have stopped the boat, take the people off, search it, show that there are drugs on it, then find out who's really involved. There might have been innocent passengers. Maybe there was no drugs at all. There was no need to resort to murder. And we just did it again. And, they say this is,
Yeah.
I just listened to Tom Nichols talk about this. He said, we're not at war with Venezuela. We're not at war with this group. And you need to have, if you're going to do military actions like this, you need to have rules of engagement and a legal basis. And we have to have and we're just a rogue nation with essentially pirates. If we just go blow random people up in international waters with no justification and say
Yeah.
later, oh, they were a bad person. Trump does this a
Yeah.
lot. Like the people he's deporting without due process, he said, well, they're all just dangerous, violent criminals, members of Tren de Oega. He doesn't, the gang, and doesn't prove anything, just jumps right to punishment without bothering to have any proof of anything. That's
Yeah.
summary judgment, summary execution is his favorite thing.
Yeah. And I'll bring up two last points. One is it's interesting. He claims that ICE recently
Yeah.
has the largest budget of all the military.
Oh,
I
now that,
mean,
well, they do since the big, beautiful bill
yeah,
gave them a
right.
pile of money. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So more money than the Marines have right
Apparently
now.
more than anything. And that's why now that they're sort of destroying the rest of the economy, it's probably one of the few jobs you can get anymore.
Yeah, yeah, right. And then the last one is during 2020, during the George Floyd riots. I don't recall this, but Trump was reported, and I think he has audio of Trump saying this, that when being asked about the getting updated about the riots happening in Washington, D.C., Trump made the comment, can't we just shoot them all?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. He wanted to do
Okay,
it then, just like he wanted to put alligators in the water in the Rio Grande and spikes on the wall to like impale and kill people who tried to get across it. He loves like medieval, brutal
I
torture,
see.
which is very common among fascists. They all think cruelly punishing their enemies with torture machines is the greatest thing ever. It's got, I
Yeah,
think, something to do with the mental disease that makes people into dictators, some extreme form of narcissism, and somehow having more power and exercising more power over people gives them a big thrill.
yeah. Well, if you have time, this is a 75-minute talk.
Yeah,
And if you'd like to learn more about the history
yeah,
of the 10th Amendment, the Insurrection Act, Posse Comitatus,
yeah,
it's worth listening to.
yeah, yeah.
Dr. Michael Baker,
Yeah, and
Commonwealth
I
Club.
liked Rachel Maddow's Ultra, which is another version of the same thing.
Okay,
Anyway, so
let's move on. What do
yep.
you got next, Sam?
Well, I got a couple AI ones. There is
Okay,
now you probably know Cobalt Strike. Cobalt Strike is the professional penetration testing kit used. It's expensive, and you have to prove you're a legitimate company to get it. Although there are cracked versions out there that criminals use, and Metasploit is the open source alternative. So it's a, a platform lets you do many attacks. Now they have made a Chinese version that has AI in it, in the style of Cobalt Strike called Villager. And so it will automatically scan, automatically choose the attack and perform it for you. So it would be interesting to see how powerful it is and how well it works. And then ChatGPT has now added full MCP support, Model Context Protocol. And what this means is you have a developer mode in ChatGPT and you have full read and write support for Model Context Protocol tools. So they warn you that it's dangerous. This can now link ChatGPT to Stripe so AI can raise invoices and send them in response to a prompt. There's a confirm button, but you can turn that off. So you can now
I
make
see.
AI agents that do things like make purchases in the browser on your behalf. And it would be interesting. I'm going to try and make a project for my AI course about this, where you set this up and see it go. It's
Okay.
and they warn you, the problem is it's subject to prompt injection. So, like all AIs, it's dangerously not really under your control.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and like I think we mentioned in the last podcast, the Amazon AI did the same thing. It shipped a product with a warning saying, "Hey, you can't trust this; it might screw everything up." But here it is. Have fun. And I just wonder about this, shipping a product that you know has a serious defect and pretending that just putting a warning label on the box is enough. Anyway, we're going to see if that works. And then I got a few InfoSec ones. Something called hybrid Petya has come out, which is a piece of malware with a UEFI secure boot bypass. And that's something that was considered, it's apparently just a proof of concept, like a research project, but it does demonstrate that it can bypass UEFI protections, which is, the whole point of secure boot is to somehow not let you put in rootkits, and this one gets in with a patched vulnerability. Um, and there's another one that created a bit of a stir in the information security community. Huntress is an endpoint detection and response system you can install on your machine. And what they say is EDR systems must monitor system activity. So it sends activity back to their servers. And one of the threat actors installed it. So they were seeing everything the threat actor did. Apparently, after you install this, it sends your browser history and everything up to them. And they published all of it, showing what the bad guy was doing. So some people said this is an invasion of privacy. And why didn't you tell the authorities? And they're saying, no, this is just threat intelligence. There's an argument going back and forth. But they showed what tools the threat actor installed, what websites they went to search for hacking techniques, and so on. So it raises an interesting question. I didn't know this, that if you install an EDR solution, the company can see your browser history. I don't think very many people understand this.
Wait, say that again?
If you install an EDR solution on your machine, it
Yeah,
sends your
okay.
browser history up to the company and they can read it and scan it. I don't think everyone knows this. I
Hmm.
remember when Windows 10 came out, it started sending telemetry of your browsing pages up, and everybody freaked out about the privacy implications. Somebody ran Wireshark on their new Windows 10, and it was sending information up to Microsoft said, that's our cloud malware scanner. We check every URL in our cloud-based system to make sure it's not malicious before we let you go there. And everyone said, but that's invading my privacy. You can see every website I go to. And they said, no, it's just an automated process. It'll be fine. But obviously at Huntress, they can totally harvest it. Humans can read it. They can argue about it. They can publish it. It's not being thrown away or anything. There's clearly no concern for your privacy up there. And I wonder if every employee at every company with EDR knows that everything in the browser history is being examined by the EDR company. And, that means if you go to some really forbidden website like a kiddie porn site, that means the EDR company knows it. Are they under legal obligation to report it? I think they might be. I think they've kind of opened a can of worms here.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
we'll see if it goes anywhere. Uh, and there's another phishing as a service operation called Void Proxy, which targets Microsoft and Google accounts. What it does is it uses adversary in the middle techniques. So it somehow tricks you into going to a fake site that looks like Microsoft, and you log in and asks you for a two-factor code, and it has it and logs in for you. And so you get to the site, but they get all your credentials. And this will break two-factor authentication based on SMS or authenticator apps, but it won't work for passkeys or Okta FastPass, which is a similar thing, because passkeys are tied to the website they go to. If you have a Microsoft passkey, it verifies that it is actually talking to Microsoft and it cannot be used anywhere else. So if you click on a phishing link and go to a page that looks like Microsoft, your passkey will refuse to communicate with it. So that's really
Okay,
very good. This is why, people say one-time pass SMS or app-generated passwords are inferior. They're inferior to passkeys from viewpoint of security. Anyway, and I think the last one to mention is probably this one. There is a new company that's going to make AI podcasts where everyone is an AI, artificially intelligent, generated people, and they plan to make 5,000 shows with 3,000 episodes a week. The name of the company is Inception Point AI. They plan to flood the zone with AI podcasts, and they expect their AI celebrities to become influencers across social media, literature, and more. And the quote from the founder says, we believe that in the near future, half the people on the planet will be AI, and we are the company that's bringing those people to life. So it's a
okay.
brave new world. And, I think I've seen I think there was a science fiction movie where there was this AI generated person and then he became president. And all he ever was a face on TV and people voting for him. He gives inspiring speeches and stuff. If you think about it, how many of us have ever actually seen the president? I think Ronald Reagan was the first TV president, right? And you never,
No,
but he's the one that, but anyway, I think 90% of voters never see the guy anyway. He could just be a face on TV. That's all they've ever seen of him, really.
no. Who was the first president on TV?
I don't know, I guess they used TV earlier, but I think Reagan was very effective at using TV.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think Reagan was considered the master of TV the way Trump was the master of social media. That's how they got in. They embraced the new medium effectively. Because he really, and what I've heard is he actually wrote scripts for his speeches and actually presented them to focus groups and modified them in response to, he really rehearsed those things like a theatrical show. That's why his speeches were so good.
meaning Reagan.
Reagan, yeah.
Yeah, but remember, he was an actor.
Yeah, I know, but not
That
everybody takes it so seriously. But he took his acting seriously, and that was his skill. You could say the same thing of Trump. Trump takes his star thing seriously, and he's very good at making himself the center of attention and stirring up controversy and staying in the headlines and keeping the base that loves him, loving him more. He's very good at that.
Yeah, so here I'm just fact checking you, Sam. The first
Yeah.
president to appear on live TV was Roosevelt
Right, right.
on April 30th, 1939.
Right, but he wasn't a master of TV. He was a master of the radio. It
No,
was his thing.
yeah, he was right because radio was the thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, every president will be on TV as soon as TV exists, but whether they actually master the medium and use it effectively is another thing.
yeah, and Truman became the first president whose swearing was televised.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll mention this last one is kind of interesting. A famous security researcher, Kevin Beaumont or something. Let me see if I can get his name.
Okay.
Kevin Beaumont. He wrote an article called "The Elephant in the Biz," but he's from the UK, and there were three UK companies that got hacked with ransomware and collectively lost about €1 billion, and all three of them outsourced their IT and security teams to the same consultancy company called Tata Consultancy Services. And what he said is, it's not just that these guys are rotten and incompetent. He says there's perverse incentives here. He said they all have insurance, which is going to pay for some of the damages. And the insurance companies are not complaining. They say this is great. This serves as great advertising for our services. Lots more people are buying insurance now. And he said the perverse incentives are everybody's benefiting from ransomware all through the cybersecurity industry with this arrangement. The consultancy, more people outsource their stuff to the consultancy, then they get insurance, then they get hacked. The insurance pays for it. They sell more insurance. This is not going to stop until we fix the incentives, he says. I thought ransomware was completely bad and nobody would want it, but his claim is everyone's benefiting from it right now financially. So I don't know if that's true, but that's pretty disturbing. Anyway, so that's all I've got for this one.
Yeah, well, that's all I have too.
Okay, so we'll have another one on Friday.
Talk again on Friday. Sounds good, Sam.
Okay.